start? First of all, the cornerstone. What's the cornerstone of getting into motion and motion graphics and how it affects you?
Yeah, so it's good to be here, by the way. Thanks to Adobe for having me. Third year running that we've done the opening title, so yeah, super excited to get invited back every year and be a part of this. So I always say that at Never Sit Still, which is the studio that I run, we always try and make meaningful motion. And that's something that, you know, as I've built the studio, something that I've said a lot and something that I've thought about a lot. So what I mean by that is that we make our decisions, our motion decisions, based on what a brand is actually trying to communicate to the world. So rather than just make things move from A to B, what we try and do is link our motion back to a brand strategy, which just makes for more powerful and meaningful communication.
Yeah, so I understand we have some examples that you're going to talk us through, but whilst they get those cued, how did you break into it? How did you get into? You were originally a graphic designer.
Yeah, well, I guess years ago I dabbled in. I used to work for a publishing company, so I dabbled in, you know, I guess a little bit of graphic design, and you know that was at the .com boom. We're going back to, you know, the late '90s. That was like at that point when the web was really kicking off. So I played with some early HTML, and then when I decided to study, I studied digital media because I thought at that time, that was 2003, that was quite broad. That would touch a little bit of everything, a little bit of programming, a little bit of motion graphics and 3D and compositing. I don't think it was even really widely called motion graphics then. It was more like compositing and or you did 3D. So, and then from there, I've done graphic design, web design, and it's been about 10 years that I've moved into motion. And now, Never Sit Still. The studio, like I mentioned, Never Sit Still is a small studio in Surrey Hills that I run. We do strictly, very narrowly and purposefully, we do 2D and 3D motion graphics.
Oh, okay. So, what are the elements in a static graphic that you look for that would give you that impact? If I'm thinking and I'm a static graphic designer, I mean, I'm a designer of static graphics, two separate things. What would you look for that you think I could make that move?
Yeah. So we basically work with an even mix of agencies and direct clients. And often we do a lot of the design ourselves when we work with direct clients, or when we work with agencies, we often provided design because we specialize in brand. So we specialize in motion graphics for brand. A lot of the brands that we work with, the static graphics, they're already rooted in a concept, and those concepts are based on the brand strategy, and that's what gives us clues as to how we're going to bring the brand to life in motion.
Right, so yeah. No, continue.
Yeah, so every single brand is different, and some of them need to move really fluidly and gracefully, whereas others are more, you know, staunch and utilitarian. So depending on what the brand is trying to say is how we'll sort of get our clues for
the motion is informed by the brand itself.
Yeah.
So you had a couple of examples you wanted to
yes.
work us through, which I think we'll throw up on the screen.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Yeah, cool. So a few that we prepared earlier. So I thought it would be good to have a look at maybe kicking off with Stake. We did this yesterday, so I thought I'd keep the volume low. So Stake is for a new app that makes trading on the US stock market really fast, instant, fun, and there's no brokerage fees. Now, apparently the US stock market moves at this pace, it moves with this energy. So this video needed to be tight, it needed to be snappy. We used 2D, 3D, type-driven treatment to really capture that energy of the US stock market. So the whole thing, the full version, it's only a minute. It's up on our site, so you should definitely check it out. It's a fun one.
And where can the audience see that?
Neversitstill.tv. That's our
.tv.
website. Yep.
All right. And so the next one, Arc Group. I think you're working with them.
A lot of us would be familiar with Melbourne IT. Melbourne IT have been around since '96. So for the last 20 years, they've sold web domains and I guess hosting, and they've recently moved in. They've completely transformed their business, and now they sell, I guess, or they don't sell. They provide services and solutions to their clients. Their new brand was built on 4 pillars. This particular one is work with heart. This one was change it up. The first one, like the rope, was smarter together. We came up with these 3D animations that work as loops, and because they were 3D animations, we could also scale them up. So we rendered these at, I think, 13,000 pixels wide, so they could be used for print and get into really high quality and crops. So this essentially became the animation and illustration suite based on those 4 pillars.
Oh, so let me double click on that. So you actually were generating these animations, but you render them at what we would call a print resolution. So they're actually created for print in an animation pipeline.
In a 3D package, yep.
Ah, okay. So it works both ways. Then.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to work. And at first, when the agency got in touch with us, they said, look, the client's thinking of just going with stock. There's there's nothing ownable about that. And it was like, well, we can create a suite for you. And the idea is that they're going to build on this. We started with the four pillars of the brand, but the idea is that we can build on this, stick with their color palette. They can all be really ownable, and they can build on that suite.
So one of the ones that I came across myself, which I must admit, didn't know it was your creative, but I should have realised, is the BT work, which it does make you realise how the logo came about. The motion educates you about the iconography.
So the Smart Move campaign. This is a really recent campaign for BT. We're just showing 2 of the TV spots here. I mean, these were simple and stripped back to cut through the clutter of the landscape that these TV advertisements would be shown in. The arrow here strikes through, moves forward. This strategy was all about advancement and moving forward. The arrow strikes through the negative of the headline, making the positive, always moving forward. And then every single element of the logo in some way moved forward. And we also revealed the hidden archer, an arrow that was hidden in the BT logo.
Yes, that's what's surprising. Then the actual what was a square becomes, as soon as that arrow moves through, it becomes a bow.
And surprisingly, that's something that's often missed, that few people see.
Yeah,
so animating it helps us reveal that and show that. And that's become their end frame that they're going to be using for not just this campaign, but their end frame across all media.
Right, yeah. And so a last final one, we've got afters here. Now, that must be interesting working for an organisation that they themselves are teaching.
Yes, so we work with all sorts of organisations, including Adobe, who we love working with in design and creative. Someone like afters in education. We work with corporate like BT, and we also work with arts and culture. But these guys, afters, are the Australian Film, Television and Radio School, and this slicing technique that you can see, this represents a timeline, and the timeline, going back to the strategy of the brand, the timeline is the one thing that visual and audio production share. It's that timeline. So this slicing technique was used across the entire brand, which is representative of that timeline.
Okay, so I mean they're really terrific examples. How does our audience, who I imagine aren't all motion designers, how do they get started into this? It's always so attractive and so appealing, but it seems complex. How do we break into it?
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie and say that it's easy, because animation is one of those things. It takes time. Like character animation, for instance, can take weeks to breathe life into a character, and I've not been able to spend days on 5 seconds of animation. So it's time consuming, and especially 3D can get complicated. But it is easier than ever before to get into motion. So a lot of you guys would be Creative Cloud customers, so you've already got the tools that we use. Our main tool is Adobe After Effects, and we use that for mainly our 2D motion graphics. And the other thing is you've got Premiere Pro, which is we use for editing. We do a lot of our audio editing for music within Premiere Pro, which surprised the new designer that we've got. He said, why don't you use Audition or Ableton? We've got licenses for those, but we lean on Premiere a lot. It's very simple and easy to use. And then what a lot of people don't know is that they've actually got a license of the 3D package we use. So Adobe have an alliance with Maxon, who makes Cinema 4D. So every single one of you actually has a light version of Cinema 4D for 3D with your Creative Cloud license.
Thank you very much. We didn't know you were going to say that. It was a great plug. So thanks, Mike. There's great learning there from all of us. It is something that we really is so empowering and so great an experience to get into it. And seeing your work, if any of us can get even a tenth of the way there, we'd be counting ourselves lucky. Can you please thank, from Never Sit Still, Mike Tosetto.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Michael. Cheers.
It's really great. So, Mike sort of demystified motion there a little bit, and you're sitting there thinking, wow, that's so cool, but how do I get into it? And as Mike said, you already have the tools if you're a Creative Cloud user. You already have all the tools that Mike just said. And you may be thinking, well, I've got a great design project. Mike just said, okay, I'm looking for something in the static design that I have that I could animate to inform the brand and to explain what we're trying to say, the message behind that. So how do I get into video and motion without descending into sub-pixel anti-aliasing and color lookup tables, which seems to be what happens? Well, let's show you how. Let's show you with something you already have if you're a Creative Cloud user. I'm going to introduce now Victoria Nece. Victoria is Adobe's product manager for motion graphics and visual effects. But like most of our product managers in a previous life, she was a motion designer for documentaries. She has said that she likes to make After Effects do stuff that it wasn't meant to do. And today, she's going to explain one of the latest ways that she's making After Effects do something that it wasn't meant to do, and that is explain mogets. So I'm not going to tread on her presentation. Listen out for that. It will change your world. It will enable you to get into motion graphics. Look out for it. Listen out for it. Mogurts, and you and in order to explain it all for you, can you please give a big welcome Adobe's Victoria Nece.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria. That was a great interview, thanks. So yeah, as he was saying, before I joined Adobe, I spent a decade as a motion designer. And there were a lot of things that I loved about that role, especially finding new creative ways to tell stories visually. But I'll be honest, there was also stuff I didn't love. Take the time that I built all the graphics for a feature documentary, delivered a couple hundred final renders, and just when I thought I was done, the producer went to a test screening and decided the font looked too small on the big screen. It's one simple decision. Make the font bigger, and now half your crew's just lost their weekend. That's an expensive decision. And it's no fun for a bunch of creative people either. I don't know about you, but I sure love not sleeping because I need to manually update 120 different lower thirds. And I'm sure editors love cutting them all in a last-minute panic. And I realized that all the bits of my job I found frustrating had something in common. It was the repetitive, uncreative stuff that I had to do once the design was finished. That was a long time ago. And these days, there's more content than there's ever been, in more places. And that content has to be more flexible than ever before. And it used to be you would finish something, once you'd resized the text, of course, it would run, and that was that. But motion design is changing. There's no one final output anymore. Take an episode of network TV. There's the broadcast version, the streaming version, the translated and transcoded versions for other regions, the syndicated version with more room for commercials, the airplane version, the recut version for countries where alcohol can't appear on screen. The list just goes on and on and on. And then on top of that, you have the promos. Next week, tomorrow, tonight, next, for each time zone, for each network. And then there's the social media campaign, which is all of this all over again in a whole bunch of different aspect ratios. And you need to update the graphics for every one of those variations. It's no longer a matter of working the weekend. Demand has moved beyond human scale. And that's why we've spent the last few years focused on building tools that enable you to deliver beautiful graphics at a previously impossible velocity. The centerpiece is motion graphics templates. They give you the full creative power of After Effects in an easy-to-share, easy-to-customize package. And I love motion graphics templates, we call them Mogurts for short, because they enable designers to focus on design and editors to make key decisions in context. Pretty much anything you can dream up in After Effects, you can turn into a motion graphics template, and that can be shared with the editorial team working in Premiere Pro. Opening titles, logo animations, bumpers, lower thirds, no matter the graphic, you get to choose what you want an editor to be able to change about it. You're in control. You can add lots of options and give someone dozens of ways to switch up layout, colors, and styling. Or you can lock things down completely. Just change this text, nothing more. It's up to you. Either way, if you're an editor, making those changes is simple. Drag and drop, then customize. You can reuse the same graphic again and again with unlimited variations without having to switch applications or ask someone to make changes for you. And I've been using After Effects most of my life. And I'll be the first to tell you that After Effects projects can get very complicated very quickly. Now, that complexity is powerful. Everything can be adjusted and animated to create exactly the look that you want. Digging through someone else's composition to find that one thing you need to change, though, that's always a challenge. But motion graphics templates are so easy to update. You don't need to be a video pro to customize a template. And motion graphics templates maintain their flexibility beyond the original sequence. They make it so much quicker to deliver alternate versions for regional or international use, promos or social media. And social media, because face it, you're doing all of the above. And this speaks to one of the other neat things about designing Mogurts. You don't just get to design a graphic. You get to design the editing experience for it too. Designers get to choose which specific properties an editor is able to adjust. So you can lock things down, make sure everyone stays on brand, or give people the flexibility they need to adapt to different circumstances. But to me, maybe the best part of a motion graphics template is that it isn't a video. So you don't have to wait for it to render before handing it off. You don't have to deal with tons of huge files or manage multiple rounds of outputs. When you export, After Effects packs up all the building blocks that anything an editor needs, assets and all, into one convenient package. There's no more relinking footage, and if you use typekit fonts, they'll sync automatically. That's a lot of boring, uncreative work that you can just skip. And the more efficient you can be, the more time you save. When you're not stuck wrangling composition files and assets, or having to jump into another application to make a tweak, or having to stop what you're doing entirely to ask someone else to do it, you can focus. You can focus on the task at hand. You can focus on your creative decisions. You can focus on the work that makes you most valuable and that made you want to do this job in the first place. One of our users at Oxygen told us about how their entire promos department embraced motion graphics templates. And here's what he said. He said, "It's pretty amazing and extremely efficient to have editors doing most of our day-to-day graphics work. The quality remains top-notch, and it frees up our graphics department to work on bespoke treatments for higher priority shows." Which sounds to me like way more fun design work that nobody was getting to do before. But now they have the time. But what if you don't have a crew of great designers like they do? If you're an editor who wants to take your work to the next level, check out Adobe Stock. We have hundreds of professional motion graphics templates created by top members of the motion design community and ready for you to make your own. They're super quick to license directly inside Premiere Pro, and many of them are free. So these templates transform post-production workflows. You've got designers with more time to create, and they empower editors to make their decisions in context. And the result is not only a higher quality production, but less data entry, less back and forth, and fewer late nights scrambling to make last-minute changes. It's not just what you create, it's how you share it. And so what if you want to go beyond motion graphics templates? You want to ensure consistent branding and quality throughout your entire pipeline. What if you could ensure that everyone you're working with always had the latest version of every file? That's where CC Libraries comes in. Not only are they a great way to share motion graphics templates, you can build a live style guide for everyone you're working with. Brand colors, logos, all the elements that you reuse again and again can live together in one convenient package right inside your application. And you can choose who gets access and even make libraries read-only for certain users. It's a great way to collaborate, and when there's an updated version of a template, just add it to the library, everyone gets instant access. There's a subtler benefit too. Libraries build trust and confidence within your team because you have a single source of truth, and flexible templates can ensure your team will always stay on brand and maintain production value. And all of these tools enable you to work faster and work together faster. Because if you're still waiting for every single graph to finish rendering, waiting for each video to upload, waiting for an editor to import them into Premiere, and then finish manually cutting them in one at a time, if so, you're in the business of waiting. And no one needs downtime when you're on deadline. And we thought the change was dramatic enough, we actually commissioned a study. So I can even give you a handy number. Motion graphics templates, up to 454% faster than the alternative. And that's just for customizing a single template. If I were building those graphics for that documentary today, all those lower thirds would have been one Mogurt. And that font size change, that one surprisingly consequential decision, it would have been a breeze. I'd open up the original in After Effects, make my design changes, export a new version to my shared library. And then the editor I was working with would open up that library, hold down Alt, and drag the new version on top of one of the old ones in Premiere. Premiere would ask him to replace every instance in the sequence. He'd click yes. That was it. Premiere keep all their customizations, but with that new font size. That's a whole weekend down to 2 clicks. It's one decision, one change. And when Premiere is at the center of your post-production workflow, your whole team can be so much more productive. Now, Adobe makes incredible tools for video pros. After Effects, Premiere, and Audition, graphics, editorial, and audio. Specialist tools used by the best in the world. But there's a new kind of video editor emerging, someone who works end-to-end with broad experience instead of deep. Think online content creators, journalists, people who need to make videos fast, but just as high quality. And right now, getting their work done usually means they're jumping back and forth between 5 or 6 different applications. They need a different set of tools. So we're building Project Rush for them. Rush is fantastic. It lets you work anywhere, desktop, tablet, even on your phone, on location. And it's built on the same foundation as the pro video apps, because a Rush user can be just as much of a pro as a specialist in a focus tool like After Effects. But Rush gives you just the tools you need, right when you need them. So it's a great way to start editing if you're new to video. If you'd like to give Rush a try, find one of your friendly local Adobe reps, more info in a demo, or sign up for a pre-release. And the best part is, After Effects users, Rush users, Premiere users, Audition users can all work together, because these tools are deeply connected. You can do what you do best and collaborate easily with everyone on your team who's doing what they do best. The tools work together, so you can work together. And I really think this is the greatest strength of Creative Cloud. No matter your level of expertise, no matter if it's deep or broad, you're connected. Everything works together. And smarter collaboration is the only way you're ever going to get your work done. Those deadlines aren't getting any further away. Thank you.